All right. Well, sunny day. Well, mostly sunny day here in July in Grand Ronde, and we're out at the Powwow grounds. And I'm here with Kathleen George, who is one of the 7 people, smaller field than normal, who cast her name into the consideration for tribal council elections. So this is your first year your first go as an incumbent. And how is it different from your first go as a council candidate?
I think as an incumbent, you have a little bit better sense of what to expect. But at the same time, there's a lot that's the same about it. You have to work hard. You have to get out and talk to the tribal members, talk to them about how they think things are going and what they'd like to see. But it's not quite as much of a mystery. I think during your first run, you're not quite sure what all you're going to have to go through over the course of the summer. You're still figuring out what are the best ways to reach out to people and to get input. And so I know it's going to be a very busy summer, having a lot of conversations, but I think it's good. And I think with having this number of candidates, we always want the membership to have a good choice, but sometimes when there's lots and lots of candidates, I think it's more difficult for folks to get to know and talk to all those candidates. So I think it's going to be a good summer.
So looking back on your first term as tribal council, how has it matched up against what your expectations are? Or was it even close to your expectations?
I think, honestly, I tried to have few expectations. I tried to come in with a pretty blank slate in terms of what it would be like to be a council member yourself. Now, of course, I've worked with tribal council before I got there, both our council and others. So I had a sense of the governmental ebb and flow of the work. But until you're sitting in that seat and you're one of 9 people who are responsible for analyzing all the information before you and deciding what you think the best course of action will be, it's really a different experience. One thing I think was helpful having worked in tribal government for so long is I had a little bit of a heads up of the fast-paced workflow that issues come before tribal council, and also the breadth. There is such a wide variety of things that tribal council members have to deal with, everything from health policy to natural resources policy to economic development to tribal housing to dealing with tribal members on a day-to-day basis. And so it's really a wide breadth that you deal with. And it's been such an adventure and such an honor to get to learn so much.
So what are some things you want to accomplish with another 3 years, assuming you get reelected?
I think in the next 3 years, we need to have a plan ready to implement, and I hope we're already implementing it, for tribal member homeownership here in Grand Ronde. We have done a really good job of going from after restoration, having no tribal government-sponsored housing, to now having quite a bit of housing. But most of that, the vast majority of it, is limited, has these really strict federal income limits. So we need more market rate housing here in Grand Ronde, and I really want to provide our tribal members the opportunity to own a home in Grand Ronde and move back home. There's a survey out right now from the housing department that's getting information from tribal members about what their preferences would be. We know that homeownership is most people's biggest investment over the course of their life. So when we do come out with a plan for homeownership, we want it to best reflect the needs that tribal members have when they're looking to buy a home. So I think collecting that information this year and then putting it to work, I would really like to see us being ready to roll out some home ownership options in the next 3 years.
What else?
I think we need to continue our reinvestment in our casino. We've done a lot of that, especially in the last year. We are reinvesting in our hotel, making it a good experience for those high-value customers upon which every gaming facility depends. But I think we have to have kind of a sustainability plan for the casino. We know that the gaming industry is changing, not just for Spirit Mountain, but for every casino everywhere. And we have to be ready for that. So I think we're getting that underway now. We've done a feasibility study for an RV park that will be in conjunction with Spirit Mountain Casino. We know that the numbers on that look very good and would enhance the number of visitors coming to Spirit Mountain Casino. So we're going to move forward with that this year, and we're working with both Stan Dillon and RGM to make that happen. But I think we can't stop at the RV park. So we have a feasibility study underway right now to say, what are other kinds of amenities that we could support at Spirit Mountain that might be frequented by our own community? And in other tribes, they have developed facilities, like a movie theater or a bowling alley, or maybe a more family-friendly, family-targeted restaurant. So these are all the kinds of things that we can take a look at the local towns, and what are those amenities that folks don't have in the small towns near Grand Ronde that they might be willing to come out to Grand Ronde to use. And then some number of those people might be casino patrons as well. We know that our business model is going to have to evolve over time. So we're going to have to figure out what are the best areas to explore and to do some experiments with. And I think that's really something we have to work with Stan on in the next couple of years.
Cool. So your goal, of course, is to do some more videos throughout the campaign. What are some future issues you plan on addressing in future videos?
Well, one thing I'd really like to talk about is what we often call our trust funds or our financial reserves. I know that might sound a little bit wonky, but we, I think, are unusual as a tribe in that we're so fortunate that our elders, leaders who came before us, established these programmatic trust funds, right? Having been through termination and restoration, it was easy for them to imagine a day where we might not be able to rely on grants, or we might not be able to rely on casino funding. How would we run elders, education, healthcare? And so they established those trusts. But we've never really developed the policies around those. We need to even identify what would be a fully funded health plan. Well, we're doing work right now to identify what that is. And what's really important is you'll never know if you've reached a savings or an investment goal if you don't have the goal defined. I think that's really important for the long-term sustainability of the tribe. So I'd like to talk about that. And I would also like to take a look at, talk a little bit more about how we're working with our local partners. We have a fantastic education program. And yet, most of any kid's experience is what happens in the actual school. And we know that a lot of our families who live in the Grand Ronde area have some concerns about our local school districts. We're working very closely with our superintendents and the folks there to say, how can we make our local school districts a place where everyone who attends these schools has a good experience? And I think we have to do that as we're investing more in housing. So those are some of the things I'd like to talk about.
Cool. Perfect. Well, thank you.
Thanks very much.